So just some basics in terms of salary validation, and you may hear it referred to, our sort of old nomenclature was to refer to it as effort reporting. And, formerly that's what we had to do. And there was actually a certification requirement. So we'll get into, some of the change. We're now referring to it more, I think, accurately as salary validation. And the reason we do it, it's mandated under uniform guidance. So those are the cost principles that we have to follow in the federal realm. And it's really, in the essence, it's why we have to do effort reporting. So why we validate salary charges. So under uniform guidance, we're obviously charging salaries to sponsored programs. And in fact, salaries are really oftentimes the predominant charge, right, to sponsored programs. The research tends to be a labor-intensive endeavor. So whether you're doing a research project or a public service project, there's likely to be a lot of personnel transactions that are involved in that. And the reason it's important for us to validate it is under the uniform guidance, the charges have to be allowable. And pardon me for just one moment, because we've got this set up, so I've got to let people in here. And I think somebody might be needing to join the Zoom. Okay, so we'll let them in. Sorry about that. So under uniform guidance, the charges, they have to be allowable. They have to be reasonable in relation to the work that's being performed. And then thirdly, they have to be consistent with the organization's policies and procedures with respect to appointing personnel. Again, as I mentioned, the personnel, these tend to be labor-intensive projects and endeavors that all of you are working on, right? You have a lot of people that are doing the actual work and getting things done. And so these are, a significant and substantial amount of the sponsored award is the salary charges. And then finally, what do we do it? So it's federal flow through. A number of you may have New York State awards. And so you might be wondering, well, gee, this isn't a federal award. Why are you making me report or validate salary on a New York State award? And the reason is when we look at the contract language in the New York State awards, the state agencies don't tend to differentiate. So there are so many different funding mechanisms with some of the state activity that they often flow down the federal regulations to us, whether or not the project is actually federal funding or has any portion of federal funding associated with it. And so for that reason, we've had an opinion from our legal counsel here that we do in fact need to certify or validate New York State activity as well. So that could also apply in situations where, for example, you might be working with a municipality. Maybe you're working with, I don't know, maybe the city or town of Farmingdale, and they've made an award to the campus, but they're receiving their money from a state source. We would have to validate that salary. And we could anticipate that if there was an audit or review at the end of the award, that they very well might be asking us for our validated salary reports. Okay, any questions on any of that? I know that was a quick run through. So far, so good? Okay, excellent. So what I thought I would do, I'm going to just stop the sharing for just a moment. And actually what I want to do is actually go into the system and make sure that we can all see a salary statement. So I'm going to open yet another window here. And you guys, are you able to see this? You're probably not able to see my screen at the moment. So I'm going to share it, and let me just check the chats and see if there were comments. Okay, that was from the recording. Thank you. I'm going to share the screen. And try not to make everyone dizzy with the screen bouncing around. Is everyone able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. Now, just one note. This is actually not, when you log in from the campus, I'm actually going to go in this a different way, and I'm going to try not to confuse folks. When you go in, you're probably going to go to the Research Foundation homepage at rfsuny.org. Okay. In the upper navigation, this Tools and Applications. If you drop this down, you're going to see an option for Verify Your Effort, or ECC. And ECC, just so I'm not throwing around a lot of acronyms, ECC is simply the name of the software we're using. It's a Huron product, and it stands for Employee Compensation Compliance. So there's no mystery there. And when you click on this, you're going to come to this screen. And unless, let me scroll over here so we can all see this. So if you're not one of the campuses listed on the left, which of course Farmingdale is not, you're just going to click on the RF logo. And that's going to bring you to a place where you're going to enter whatever credentials you use to access basically our Oracle Business System or the Report Center. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, I've actually got to go in a little different way here.
Mark, can you go back to that screen one sec?
Sure.
The log on.
Oops, we don't want to be a university at all. This
the one before that had the
one before this.
All the campuses listed on the left on the left, because I think scroll up a little. So there's not. Yeah. So all right. Yeah. So we should not use this login through your campus. Sometimes there's a drop-down box there. This one doesn't have a drop-down box.
It's probably, it could be a function of the browser that I'm using, Dominic.
Yeah. All right. So we'll stick with, just to make sure. So definitely, if you see a drop-down box there that says login through your campus website, ignore that and click on SUNY RF the way Mark is demonstrating now. Thanks.
Yeah, look for the SUNY RF logo. Now, I will say that our IT team is working on, I guess what I would call an updated login. So what we really want is for every campus to be able to use your local campus credentials, right? It's gotten kind of crazy with the volume of systems and the number of logins and passwords and so forth that people have to remember and able to, in order to access these systems. And we do acknowledge that. So the team is working on a more comprehensive, I guess I'll say, methodology, and that would allow you to just use your local campus credentials to get onto these various platforms. But that's coming, they're working on that, making good progress, and that'll be something you can look for going forward. So let me go back here to the EC. So I'm actually, as I mentioned, so you can kind of ignore this piece of it. I'm going to actually go in a little different way. And that's okay. And this is just for our purposes this morning. So I don't have anything here, but as project directors, when you log in, you're going to have some statements, presumably, that are waiting for certification. So is there anyone who would like to volunteer to just have us view your effort statement?
Sure. You can take ours. Fine.
So that's Fran Fetterman.
Okay.
There I am.
So that screen where I just was on the home page, let me go back here for just a minute. So when you log in, you'll come to this screen, and presumably if you have statements that are waiting certification, you're going to see them here on your work list, okay, right in this area. Obviously it's blank now, but you'll see a listing here. The other thing I just want to pause and make sure you're aware of, under the links in the upper navigation, if there's ever any uncertainty just in terms of what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to do it, we have the certify an effort statement quick reference. So if we click on this, this is simply a 3-page document, and it just takes you through, I think there's 5 steps here in total, how to log in. When you get your email, click on the link. The link will take you to this screen where you can again select the RF and log in. This is the page where we just left, the work list page. You'll see your statements listed here and the statements that are in need of certification. You can click on that link. You'll come into step 4, which is your effort statement. And we're actually going to walk through this. So I know I'm going through this quickly, but we're actually going to walk through this so that people can see exactly what's happening. And then step 5, you'll certify your statement and then log out. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Fran's statement. So just a couple of things about this. We'll, is this size-wise okay? Can everybody see this?
These are not my people.
Yes, it looks fine.
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay, all right. So you're going to see on your effort statement, so Fran is the PI, she's listed on top in this pane. If there are individuals for whom she needs to certify, those will also be listed here.
Excuse me, are those all for me right now? These are Beatrice, Danielle, these are supposed to be under for me because I don't know any of those people.
They may be on your award. We'll look into those.
They're not.
So
They're not.
they're not on your award.
They're not on
So
my
let me
award.
see
It's a
who these
different award.
folks are.
Mark, some of them were for me. This is Suzelle. Some of these people are for me.
Okay. Looks like so. For example, Kim, it looks like is paid on Liberty Partnership Awards.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
Maybe I wasn't a good example.
Yeah. So the other, you know, the other sort of thing that gets a little tricky here is I'm logged in under basically an administrator credentials. And so it'll look very similar, but what you might see just in terms of this upper left pane might be a little different. Okay.
I think just for
But for
example's sake, we're okay.
For the example for today, let's look strictly at Fran's effort statement. And again, so if you know, for the folks that you have to certify, you're also going to see them here under these. Let's sort of, you know, for the purpose of the demonstration, not worry about who these folks are at the moment. So a couple of little tricks. If you have multiple people listed here and you want to see them all at once, you can click on this little icon here all the way to the left and it will select them all at once. And what that enables you to do is just to sort of scroll down through each and every effort statement to see them all. And let me just do that to see if this will load quickly. And so I can just now just kind of scroll through these one by one and just kind of continue scrolling down and review them and certify them if I decide to do it this way, if that's useful for me to do that. Okay. Now, just a couple of other things on the effort statements and the various panes here. I'm sorry, was there a question? No? Okay. All right. So if we then look down, sort of scroll down a little bit, you can see the base effort period that we're certifying for. So in this case, this looks like a statement for the fall of 2019. Okay. We know that it's Fran's effort statement. We know when the statement was due.
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple of little things here. As you sort of scroll down through the effort statement and the various awards here on the left, what should happen is there should be a mouse over. So as I'm hovering over this, it should tell me just a couple of little specifics about the award.
Oh, there it goes.
So you can see, yep, here it comes. just in terms of who the PI is and so forth. So if you're wondering who the investigator is for some of these awards, you can tell that from this, from the mouse over, the scroll over.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the columns here that we'll go through quickly. So this is the total payroll and cost sharing. So if you had, obviously people were charged on the award, their charges are here, a portion to each award, okay? We've also included the percentages, the salary percentages. So this gets a little confusing. These are the salary percentage. So for this period of time, for the period of time reflected by this effort period, so August 26th through the end of December, these are the amounts that were charged for Fran for each of these awards, okay? These percentages represent strictly for that period. So on the Freeport Public Schools project, Fran had 1% effort on that project, right? And then we go kind of scroll down through the awards and so forth. This 0 is simply a function of rounding. So we just rounded to whole numbers. We didn't include any decimals, which is why even though there's a salary amount here that looks like 0, so it looks a little funny, but it's actually just a function of rounding. And so when we get down through all these various things, we see that the effort does in fact equal 100% for the period. So as we kind of move toward a more of a salary validation-based review and approval, what we'd ask each of you to do is to look through each of your awards and just, you know, there doesn't have to be necessarily an in-depth, right, analysis that takes place, right? It's just, you know, you are each as investigators in charge of these awards. I think you have a pretty intuitive sense of who has worked on them and how much, and probably a pretty good intuitive sense of what those charges should reflect, right? So as you're kind of looking down through these various awards, if there's anything here that looks out of the ordinary or odd or really is different from what you expect, my suggestion would be that you just stop at that point, and there's a little get help button down here in the left corner. And if you click that, it'll just pop open a window and you'll be able to send a note to your sponsored programs office. And it might just be, hey, I reviewed my statement. You know, there's an award here. The salary amount just doesn't make sense to me. Could we chat about that and maybe kind of work through what might be happening here? Okay. There can be cases, you know, we're all busy. It could be that, you know, maybe a change form or distribution adjustment was needed to adjust the salary amount, and perhaps it just didn't get done because everybody's busy. So this is really an opportunity, right, periodically as we review these charges and validate the salary, to really take a look at these and make sure that that we're comfortable with the salaries that we're charging. Again, on federal rewards, and it's sort of gets back to the slides of, you know, this is a federal requirement, and we're doing the review to just ensure that we've been good stewards of federal or state funds.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question? So this is mine. Excuse me.
Sure.
I'm seeing something that's appearing twice, and I'm not understanding. The first one says here, cohort 4, and if you scroll down, it's also cohort 4. This is cohort 3. This is cohort 4. This is double cohort 3. How come they appear twice?
So these are actually different awards, right? So there's award 84683, right? And you had some effort on that award. And then there's also 87398, which is probably a renewal or a subsequent year of the same project, and there's effort on that as well. So that's why they're appearing twice.
For the same time period?
It might not be this time period, but the time periods may overlap our overall effort period.
Okay.
Yeah, Fran, the start date there is 8/26/2019, and
Right.
the fiscal year ends for that award on 8/31. So you're getting from the previous year in that last week.
Right.
Gee.
It carried into the new one.
Yep, and that's a perfect explanation in terms of what's happening there. So that can be a little confusing. That's a good point.
Okay, and this is would be just for me because this came under my name. So if there was another employee, it wouldn't be reflected here. It'd be another,
This is just you. So if there was another employee, we would be clicking on one of these names underneath. And I
Right.
understand these aren't necessarily yours, but when you log in, you will see your folks underneath your name, the folks that worked on your projects.
that's why there's a
Okay,
difference in
that
1%. Yeah, because those are the
Yep.
shorter ones. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Other columns, if you had any cost sharing on any of your awards, if there's a requirement for cost sharing and you have, in fact, on a labor schedule to charge some of your effort to the awards, you'll see that in the cost share column, okay? And then in the certified effort column, this is actually the percentage that we're certifying. Again, I think, you know, candidly, the percentages don't mean a lot to people. I think the salary and the payroll charges are much more meaningful because I just think as project directors, you are the ones that appoint these folks, and I think you intuitively know whether or not these charges look reasonable and really are what you authorized and what you expected to see on these effort statements. Is that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Yes.
So we've done our review, we've looked at each award, we've looked at the salary amounts that are associated with each award for this time period. And at this point, we're satisfied that these are in fact accurate, right? They're what we expected, they're what we've authorized. So at this point, what we would do is we can do one of two ways. We can either go award by award and click each checkbox, okay? Or, right, we've already been through these, we know they're good. We can go up to the star and check all of them at once.
Mm-hmm.
When we do that, the certify button will appear, and I'm not going to do this because that's not an appropriate thing for me to do, but if we click this button, actually, I'll tell you what, we can go this far. It's just going to pop open a little message, and again, this is all on the help referenced on the quick reference guide as well. It just says your certification is being processed. It's imperative that you don't try to close your browser, and it's basically just click OK to proceed. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to pop up this attestation statement. Now, if I click agree, I would actually be certifying Fran's statement, and that's not appropriate. So I'm just going to cancel out of this. But Fran, you would just click agree here. You'd get a subsequent message that basically says, yep, you've certified your effort. You'd click OK, and you'd be either done if that's the only statement you have, or you could return to this work page and certify additional statements. Does that make sense
Yes.
to everyone?
Yes, so we're just certifying what happened in the past, not, they're not going to send us stuff that didn't happen yet. Is that correct?
Right. So
Right.
we are always working sort of retroactively, right? So currently you have statements building. So your second effort reporting period for Farmingdale runs July 1 through December. So those statements are actually building. And actually, let me just show you what that looks like.
Mark, we do have a question in the chat just about this actually, so this would help. Because they don't see their statements yet. And the award period just started, so I answered that the statements are building currently.
Yep.
And will not
Yep.
be
So
yet.
Exactly right. So if you have an award that was just set up, right? So you're in basically the second half effort period for your campus now, which runs basically July 1 through the end of December. So if you have an award that's just starting and you're appointing people and they're being paid and the work's getting done and so forth, that statement is building, right, from the period July 1 through the end of December. When we get to the end of December, there will be a 30-day review period that Dominic and Michael will have a chance to kind of look through the statements, make sure everything looks okay.
Right.
And then when we get to the early part of, and they'll do that in January, then early February, we'll release the statements. And what that means is you'll get an email in your email box that basically says the effort period has ended, right? The campus has done their review. It's time to go in and certify your effort. You click on the link, log in, and just kind of walk through the steps that we just went through. Is that making sense to everyone? Is there other questions that people have about that?
Makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
So again, the quick references guide is here, and what I might even suggest is maybe the first time that you go in, go ahead and go to the reference guide and maybe even go ahead and print it so that it's available to you, and you can kind of use that to kind of as a step-by-step to kind of walk through the whole process. Might be something you want to consider. And then again, I think that, the main thing is if you see anything that just doesn't look right, or it just doesn't feel right to you, or feel like
Ryan,
something again that
the effort is the stuff we use for it's basically the regroup, whatever it is, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Right? I'm afraid to ask that. Oh.
Fran, you're not.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're not muted, Fran.
Mark, I have a quick question.
Sure.
If there's an individual, let's just say, I don't know, I think I saw the name Kimberly on Fran's list there. If there's an individual that works for more than one grant, when
Yep.
you go on to, I'm trying to think back to when I certified, I mean, I oversee multiple programs, but if there's an individual that works for your program and someone else's program, you should only see the certification that's associated with your program, or would the other ones also show up?
Yep. So what will happen in that instance? So you have an individual. So let's say, for example, let's say Kimberly works on 2 different sponsored awards for 2 different project directors. Okay. So project director A, right? When they log in, they're going to see Kimberly's statement, just like it is here. But they're only going to have the option of certifying that portion of Kimberly's salary that is attributed to their award, right? So you're going to see the whole amount, but you can only certify the portion that's relevant to your award.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's what I think I remember
Right.
seeing.
So yep.
Okay.
And then so when project director B logs in, they're going to certify the portion that relates to their award. And so we cover her 100% that way. It's just done by 2 different project directors because she's working on 2 different awards. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I was just talking to Ryan, my cohort here. The only salary that I personally don't get the salary, so IFR recovery, that's what we're seeing here. Is that correct? As for my example, anyway. Is that what effort is, or is it just any sort of payment?
It would be salary, any salary. So if you were getting IFR, that appears here, right? That's what you're seeing. So that's salary, and that's charged to the grant. And that's what
Right.
you'd see here. Or if you're being paid directly from the RF, you're also seeing that.
Okay, so it's anything that's getting paid by the RF in my name. to me.
Yes.
It's any effort that's being attributed to the grant is going to be there.
Okay, so basically I have to just justify or certify that the percentages are what we asked for. Is that correct?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yes. Yep. That's
Okay.
exactly right. So the percentages and the salary. Yep.
Right, so that if I used, whatever percentage I allotted, that percentage has to match up here. Because I'm looking at percentages, not dollar amount, so basically. So as long as the
And
percentages match what I said to put in, then that's okay. And
It
that's what I'm
should,
certifying.
yeah, it should match.
Okay,
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dominic, was there anything else you wanted to cover?
I had one question here. Is there a different screen, or, because historically we've had these sort of piled up over multiple year periods. Would PIs that have previous period or year certifications pending, would it automatically show up on this screen, or is that something where I would have to contact you and then you'd say, okay, they can log on now and they'll be there, or can you just speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So if this were a statement where there were, I guess for lack of better term, some sort of delinquent, right, statements from previous periods, what we would see here, Dominic, is we would see them listed, right, one under the other, right here. There'd be a whole list of statements in this pane.
So they would click then in that list someplace to see the previous.
They could click each individual, click on them right here. Yep. And just sort of work through the list, right? As you certify one, it's removed from the list. You can go to the next one.
So on the left, that list there covers all the pending effort.
Yes, for this period. Yep, that's right. I'm just trying to think what else might be. Yeah.
So if I went in right now, I don't have two screens and I don't want to do it, but if I went in on my own, I should see I should see an accurate window for me, not for those extra ones, because those extra ones are probably cross-referenced because you're administrative viewing right now, correct?
If you went in right now, this is what you should see in terms of your statement. Yes, for this period. Yes.
Okay. But those extra names shouldn't be there because that's an administrative view.
Extra names should not be there. So the only folks you would see are the folks that had effort on your awards.
Okay.
And you should not have anyone else there that doesn't have any affiliation to your awards.
Okay, and this is open now, right? So after this meeting, I can go and play around with this thing.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I don't want to do it now while you're talking because I don't want to miss it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question here in chat, Mark, from PI Kerry Lutz. Has 2 grants, and she was able to see the certification for herself for the biological sciences account, but not the second grant. So the second grant, she only sees certification for one of the other PIs.
Can we look at that statement? Is that okay, Carrie?
Carrie, you could put that in chat, or
Sure, you can look at it.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's Kerry.
Oh, yeah. The last name, Mark, is Lutz.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so there's the previous pay periods Mark spoke about earlier.
And they're all certified.
Yep. So it doesn't look like it looks like Carrie is up to date.
I
there's one
literally
here.
just
One
did
here
it
to be
as you were
certified.
doing it.
Oh, okay.
That's how I had the comment. I was literally doing it as you were walking.
I love it.
So this is great. I would definitely encourage everyone to strike while the iron is hot and log on and certify whatever effort certifications are pending on your respective projects. Because if we could be, the goal with everything that has to deal with compliance obviously is 100% compliant. So we're going to try and get as close as we can to that. And again, this has been a tremendous help, at least for me, I can say. I'm sure.
Let me just show one other thing. So in this particular effort statement, you can see that there was an award here. This individual had some salary charged to this award, but this doesn't meet the criteria of being a federal flow through or New York State. And so what the system does in this case is this is a statement that was just auto approved, right? So once we released the statements, like nobody got an email for this award. The system realized it really didn't need, right? It doesn't meet the criteria of needing certification. And so it was just auto approved. So just to let you know.
Okay, so Mark, my question is really, if you look here, this particular individual was on the STEM grant that I have. And he received, which I certified already, so it disappeared. So he had $2,000 for that. Now, I was also given $2,000 for that grant, but I don't see that in my certifications. I only saw certifications for me for my biological sciences grant. So that was really what my question was referring to. Unless I certified it and didn't realize it, but I didn't notice it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who was speaking.
That was Kerry Lutz.
Okay. So Carrie, there was an award here that you were expecting to see that you didn't see?
Oh, wait, what's this? Yeah, 866.
It's like 86663.
Yeah, Kerry, is that the one you were talking about? The new one?
Yeah. So is this for me or is this for Worku, this 2,000?
This one,
you.
This one is for
Oh.
for Carrie. Yeah.
Okay. Somehow I didn't, it looks like I checked on it, but I didn't see it. Okay.
Looks like you certified it in September.
Well, not sure how I did that because I didn't know how to do it, but okay.
And thank you for doing that. Are there any other questions anyone has? Does it kind of make sense or a little more sense, I hope?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess, the other thing I would offer is I wouldn't, it's not, we don't intend it to be an onerous process. So, I mean, again, I think the real key is just to review the awards, review the salaries that have been charged for the particular period in question. And if there's something that doesn't make sense, I think it's just time to have a discussion. And I wouldn't, sort of belabor the point beyond that. There are also, Dominic, are your folks able to use any of the PI dashboards in the report center?
Yes.
Sorry, my dog is barking, so my.
That's okay.
Yes, Mark, they do have access to the report center.
Okay. So that's another sort of tool you can use if there's something here that maybe just doesn't look completely right to you. You can also, kind of validate it through the data that's in the report center. That's another option.
Okay. Mark, I just had a question on my the work list. I have some prior cost share effort reports from prior years. Does the PI get notified with those also, or is that a manual thing that I have to intervene?
So these are older statements that were
Yes.
just never certified? Okay.
Correct, for cost sharing.
Yep. So what should happen is that if you have outstanding statements, we do occasionally, and we'd like to actually send more of these. We are able to send email reminders from the system. So if for example, there's you have a statement that hasn't been certified, but the due date's coming up, you'll get another email message.
Okay.
And I think Michael and Dominic are also having some discussions, I think, about sort of each campus has sort of an escalation process, right? I mean, if we've sent 5 emails and the statement is still hanging out there, right, we've kind of got to take some additional action to just kind of bring it to everybody's attention. I mean, I don't think any of us think that anyone's sort of, overtly not certifying or doing what they're supposed to be doing, but we've just got to take some additional action and get these certified. So that's kind of a discussion that's happening, frankly, around the system at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
So we have a question here in the chat, and it's interesting. It's a good question. I have sort of racked my brain about this, and I've actually asked Mark, and well, I may have. I don't. Maybe I didn't, but. I sort of did inventory on this a while back and did see that there are certs that weren't done from previous PIs that are now, listed under the current PI who, to use the word you used before, Mark, it's it's inappropriate that people can't certify that time because they don't really know if that person worked. So.
Yep.
What are the PIs and us as an institution supposed to be doing? I mean, for example, I see there's a whole list where it has Ted Pappas name there, so I'm sort of in the same boat. So, what's your advice?
So Dominic, the bad news is that we, again, system-wide, we know we have some delinquency issues on some of these reports. This is not uncommon, right? That PIs change institutions, they move, things happen. They may not be at Farmingdale any longer, and we acknowledge that. I think what we're trying to do is make our best efforts to get them certified. Now, we don't want to be in a situation where we have people certifying these statements and they have absolutely no idea, whether what's represented on the statement is accurate or not. We don't want that. I think what I would say is what we've been doing with campuses is working with them to kind of go back. Was there a chair, right? Was there a department chair? Was there a dean, right, who might have been at the institution when these folks are there and who can more appropriately kind of review those charges and those statements and make an assessment of whether or not that it seems reasonable and accurate. And I think at this point that's probably the best we're going to be able to do, but we do need to kind of go through that process and clean these up.
Right.
And it's probably going to be a little less than perfect.
So what I would suggest, I think, to our community here is take the step that Mark mentioned. If possible. I don't think I would really, especially now, given the fact that we're primarily remote. The reality is that each of these certifications are linked to charges that were made to awards in one way or another, whether it was an IFR or even I would think cost sharing is probably on here too, because that was actually effort that they're saying was attributed to those awards. So what I would say, I think the best thing, best way for us to proceed, and I will do this with the ones that are under TED, is, clean them up and say, as the current PI, send me an email and say, it's the current PI, I went in and certified these. This was before my time, but I do recognize these charges were made to the grant, and I did my due diligence, in trying to ask whomever is remaining here at Farmingdale if these people spent this time in. So it's my best estimate that this is a reasonable representation of the time that's on the ethics certifications. And if you're not comfortable with doing that, let me know and I'll work out something with the Research Foundation where we can maybe certify them on an institutional basis, because going forward, I think this is the first step in, well, maybe the second or the third step in moving forward here, that everybody has this walkthrough, and the goal is that we won't have these problems in the future where, if a PI leaves, there will be either a minimal amount of outstanding certifications or hopefully none at all.
Yep, no, and I think that's a reasonable approach, Dominic. I mean, right, I mean, the statements are already late. It kind of is what it is. You know, at this point, we really just need to get these cleaned up across the system and then do our utmost to kind of keep them clean going forward. And I think if we can do that, we're in a much better place, frankly, than we are now. So
we don't need to be shut down by the federal government for effort. So what I would suggest again, you know, if everyone can log on and try and, you know, clean up whatever is identified under your name. If you know, if you could try and do that reasonably by this time next week, that would be great. I understand everybody's busy. If not, you know, just say it's going to be this time. It's going to be a month or whatever. Just let me know, and then I will follow up with Mark and or Mike to get, you know, a report about outstanding items. If you're having difficulties, let us know, and we can address that. But this has been very educational for me. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll you know, be one of the campuses that's you know, in good shape compliance wise with this.
very good. Any other questions anyone has?